Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. It is not our usual time for the live stream. So if you are here and joining us on this Friday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, thank you for being here. I'm Julie Barrett, founder of Conservative Ladies of America. And we do a weekly live stream, usually on Thursday afternoons at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, just to kind of go over whatever you guys want to talk about and some of the happenings in politics of the week. And last night, I had tickets to see John Crist, the comedian here in Sarasota. The tickets were originally for last September, but we had Hurricane Helene came, and so we couldn't go in September. So then they rescheduled it to December, and we got Hurricane Milton a couple weeks later, and that really damaged the venue. So they had to push it out until May 1st. And so finally, I got to go and see John Crist. If you don't know who John Crist is, I think he's hilarious. And I would say he's a conservative. So if you're looking for a funny conservative comedian, John Crist is your guy. He also has a podcast on YouTube called Net Positive with John Crist. Very good. Anyway, it was a fun show. So that's why I rescheduled the live stream for Friday at noon or 3 p.m. here on the East Coast. So if you're joining us, would love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know where you are joining us from. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those in the chat. This live stream is designed to be interactive with you guys. And so if you have questions that you would like to throw my way, I'd love to hear them. I see that Evelyn, who joins us usually every week on Thursday, Evelyn's working out, but she's got her ears on. So shout out to Evelyn. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you always being on the live stream. It's nice to have you. Big Chevy Boski Mike is... let's see, in Lake Taps. Welcome, Mike. Good to have you with us. And we've got Scott from Seattle. We've also got Mary Long and Leslie Williams, both from our leadership team, in the chat as well. So if you're asking questions, they can help answer too if I don't get to everything. But kind of on my agenda today, loose agenda, is we're going to talk about the Washington State OSPI, the Department of Education and the Department of Justice special investigation into Chris Reichdahl, the Washington State OSPI. That's really exciting news. Overdue, I think, for a lot of people in Washington. So that was very welcome. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I did do a video yesterday on that, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because you can go back and watch that video if you want to see more on that. We're also going to talk about the Florida Attorney General announcing a new Office of Parental Rights here in Florida. So it's very interesting to just watch these different, blue and red states and what they're doing. And it's been a funny year with the red state legislatures here in Florida and also in Texas doing very rhino establishment things that do not make conservatives happy. So we might get into that a little bit too. Terry from Kitsap County, welcome. Nice to see you as well. And then we're also going to talk about, for our Washington audience that might be hanging out with us today, we're going to talk about Washington's House Bill 1163. That's the permit to purchase a firearm. This bill did pass. It has not yet been signed into law by Governor Ferguson. But there's a lot of questions around the bill, and I've been digging into some of the funding of this bill. And so I'm going to share with you my findings and some other things. We're going to make some predictions about this bill. And is it going to get signed? Is it going to get funded? So we'll dig into that as well. But first, let's just briefly chat about the Washington State OSPI, the special investigation. I want to give a huge shout out to the Kennewick School Board, because they really were among the first that filed a complaint with the Office of Civil Rights. And I actually was working with them before they even announced it to at their school board meeting. They had contacted me, what do you think about this? What should we do? And I really applaud Kennewick for consistently pushing back against the unconstitutional, anti-family, anti-child policies that come out of Olympia that are pushed into the public school system. And so they filed this complaint with the Office of Civil Rights in order to get it on the radar for the Department of Education. We worked with the good people over at Defending Ed, which is formerly Parents Defending Education. They really helped to facilitate getting that complaint up the food chain to the people at the top of the Department of Education. They also had a meeting with Representative. I meant to say representative instead of Republican. He is a Republican, but he's kind of a rhino. But Republican Dan Newhouse. So the Defending Ed gals, a couple of the gals from Defending Ed, had a meeting with Newhouse about this. And so I think they have really worked hard to network and get this to the people at the top that could actually push it out to making it into an investigation. So this is really great news. There's other school districts as well. I know if either Thurston or Tumwater. Is Tumwater a school district? I know my husband went to Tumwater High School. Or no, he went to South Thurston High School. Anyway, you know what I mean? It's down there. It's in that Olympia area. So that school district filed a complaint as well. Meade School District over in the Spokane area. I know Central Valley either is ramping up to file a complaint or they already have. And I know Moses Lake also did something as well. So I don't know if they all went through the same channels. I don't think they all went through the Office of Civil Rights, but they've all been sounding the alarm in some way. So it is a huge relief that the federal government is now doing something about this. So what could potentially happen? I think what you're going to see is this is going to get caught up in the courts for a very long time because, as would be predicted, Chris Reichdahl and Washington State people are, government people are pushing back on this and they're going to fight it. And unfortunately, Washington State has had a lot of these policies, these gender inclusive schools policies in law since 2006. So almost 20 years. So they're very rooted in law. And one of the things that Reichdahl said in his press release was kind of to the effect of, these have been laws for almost 20 years. Why has nobody said anything until now? We're going to keep protecting Washington students, blah, blah, blah. So I think they're going to use that and the time length that you have had these laws in Washington. So we'll see what happens there, but I think it's going to get tied up for quite a bit of time. I would hope that this would be something that would be resolved in months, but I think it's probably going to be years as we see from the judicial system. So this is a first investigation of its kind. And I think that's because the Department of Education is collaborating with the Department of Justice. So you've got two separate entities there with the Department of Justice, I think has different levers that they can pull. The Department of Education could withhold federal funding if Washington State doesn't comply with the federal laws. They don't have to accept the federal funding, but of course they need the federal funding and they believe that they deserve the federal funding and they believe that they are protecting Washington students. So it's going to be interesting to watch that play out, but I think it's very encouraging to see the federal government stepping up, recognizing that Washington has a big problem. I would say Washington has kind of taken the top seat as far as being really far off the rails to the left. Even California's kind of dialed it back just a little bit. So we'll see what happens there, but it's nice to see some attention on Washington State. Now, one of the things that our team has been seeing a lot of as we, put out this information, people will comment and, Trump, come take care of this. Trump, come take care of that. Pam Bondi, come do this. And in some cases they can. For instance, the Department of Education can tell Washington OSPI, you have to follow the federal laws if you want the federal funding. But if you're saying, you got to come deal with our legislators, well, those are state lawmakers. And so they follow state laws, and the federal government can't come in and do anything about really your legislators unless they're, it's something to do with federal law. So it's really critical that we as citizens understand that in our local communities, on a local level, whether it's school board, city council, county council, it's really our duty to show up. And if things aren't going well, we can't, phone Trump and ask him to come take care of things. We need to go to the city council meeting. We need to write the school board directors or our legislators. We need to show up and testify in the state legislature. And that has really been my mission and our mission at Conservative Ladies over these last few years, is to really encourage and empower and equip citizens to do just that, to be active. That was something I learned when I started going down the rabbit hole in 2021 on Washington state legislation after it impacted our family so horrifically, that I'd been just unaware of all of this stuff. I'd been, sleeping on the job and not doing my duty. And as we have all been just living our lives and doing our things, the government has gone off the rails, and it's not one-sided. And it's not just a Washington or a California problem. It's happening in Texas and Florida and in red states. So that is why it's critical that we as citizens stand up, speak up, and take action. That's the only way that we're going to make change. We each have to commit to doing our small portion to make a difference. So that is my pep talk for you guys on taking action today. So that's where things are with Washington. We will be watching that closely, and we'll keep you updated. So if you're not subscribed to our Substack, that's probably the best place to get breaking information. Everything that filters out to social media from us kind of starts on our Substack. So let me put that up so you guys have the link. There it is. Okay. Let's talk about the Office of Parental Rights in Florida. So this was a really cool thing that our Attorney General, I am so impressed with our Attorney General. I just love him. James Uthmeier. He has only been on the job for 2 months. He was appointed by Governor DeSantis when Ashley Moody was appointed to the Senate seat that was vacated by Marco Rubio as he became the Secretary of State. So he is just a bulldog. He is going after all the people that need to be gone after. So he announced, was it Wednesday, I want to say, this Office of Parental Rights within the Attorney General's office. So issues at a glance, they'll be addressing denial of access to school records. Can you guys, I look at this and I just wish for Washington, California, and all those states that they had something like this to protect students, protect children, and allow their parents to be involved rather than being shut out like they are in these blue states. Anyway, so they will address denial of access to school records, lack of consent for biometric or personal data collection, unauthorized healthcare counseling or mental health services, interference with educational choices, failure to notify parents of suspected criminal offenses, coercion or encouragement to withhold information. I'm assuming secret transitions, transgender kind of things, objectionable instructional or library materials, violation of parental notification for health services, restrictions on parental participation in school governance, and unauthorized data sharing or surveys. So all good things in here that, it's nice that they are creating this as an office within the Attorney General's office rather than having to legislate this kind of thing. If we have to ask the government to give us rights, then doesn't that imply also that they can then take those rights away? And so I guess I'm more in favor of laws that do not restrict a child's right to be protected by their parents and for their parents to be able to have access to them. I'm choosing my words carefully because I'm really rethinking the whole parental rights term because of, well, in Washington, I forget what year it was, 22, 23, they actually redefined what family means so that if a child is, in a host home or something like that, the people that they're with could be defined as their family. And, we're seeing a lot of, homosexual couples that are becoming parents through surrogacy and different things, and or adoption, or there's just so much going on there's I'm concerned with the way that we have changed the definition of parent, and nothing changes about a child. A child has a right to be protected by their parents, and I also believe a child has a right to a mother and a father, and to know their mother and a father. So that's a whole different situation. But I wanted to, like, why is she talking so weird about parental rights? Why doesn't she just say parents? So anyway, that's kind of, and I think it's a long shift to get people to change the language from parental rights. I mean, we all know what we're talking about, but you have people on the left that they'll take that and, I'm a parent, even though they're technically not, or they intervene between the actual parents, which is what we went through, where Washington State was actually trying to have our child, when she was 14, file a Chins petition, which would have terminated our parental rights, and made the youth shelter where she was staying, it would have given them the authority to be her parent. And so we need to figure out, how do we avoid that situation? So that's why I'm like hyper aware of all that stuff. Let's take a look at, I see you guys are chatting it up. House Bill 2076, is it too late to put in pro? Yes, because so that's Washington. I don't even know what the bill is about, but I'm thinking that might be the one Jim Walsh proposed. Is that about the Washington Doge or something like that? Washington State legislature ended on Sunday. So all of the bills that did not pass this year, including House Bill, I just gotta scroll back up, including House Bill 2076, all of those bills will automatically be reintroduced in January. So one of the things I want to caution people about, you'll see, a lot of celebrating bills that died. I saw the Senate Republicans were celebrating that the mileage tax bills died. Well, they didn't die. They will be reintroduced in January. I like to say they're taking a nap, or they're zombies. So they will be reintroduced. And that's something, the mileage tax is something that's been a priority for the Democrats. This is the third biennium that I've been watching that they have introduced this bill. And when they do that, that typically means that that is a priority bill for them. So I really encourage people to be vigilant. Don't take a victory lap on any of these bills, because it's all coming back next year. And one of the things that we have really tried to do is keeping our legislative action team going even after the session ends, so that we're preparing and ramping up for the next session, especially in a biennium like this, where you already know a bunch of the bills that are on the table. And after the 2023 session ended, one of the things that we did as a team was we looked at the bills that didn't pass in 2023 and thought, okay, which of these bills are most likely to be a priority in the 2024 session? And so then we took a chunk of bills and we started messaging and organizing and kind of coming up with a strategy on those bills. Unfortunately, it's really hard to get people to engage and commit. But that's really, if things are going to get turned around, that's really what people have to do in a state like, well, in any state, because even here in Florida, we have rhinos. And so the citizens need to really step up. Okay, when do you think it's time to give up and just leave? I love this state, but I have young kids. Dova, I hope I said your name right, or your screen name. So Washington cannot at this point be saved in its current state. I believe, this is my prediction, Washington will have to collapse in order to be rebuilt. The Democrats have gained so much ground, and the Republicans, conservatives, whatever, anything right of the Democrats are not organized, do not have a strategy. It's difficult to get candidates who are willing to run. There's not a lot of support for the ones who will run, making it very frustrating. It's hard to get citizens involved to support good candidates. And I think what you're going to see in 2026, you're going to probably see the Democrats pick up more seats. In 2024, the Republicans, and this is, I've seen this in both the 2022 and 2024, is that in the legislative elections, the Republicans actually work against, if there's a conservative running for a seat and an establishment or moderate Republican, they will dump a bunch of money into the establishment moderate candidate because they don't want the conservative Republican. And they'll waste their money on those races. And then they're not putting any money into the seats that can actually be won, that could be flipped, or, just to hold on to. And the Republicans lost a couple of seats in the last election. And I think that we're going to see that happen again, until you have some kind of strategy, some kind of plan. And just based on my experience, the people that are involved in the Republican Party in Washington, and I don't think it's a Washington specific issue, I just think it's people who've been involved in politics a long time, they're not really open to new ideas, new strategies. They want to continue to do things the way that they've always done them. And that's why it's really critical for, grassroots organizations like ours to build an army and get people engaged so that people are, on a local level. And local is the easiest way as far as like elections. That's the best place to get involved, because that's where you have the most leverage to make change, rather than on a statewide race. Like you kind of saw that with Dave Reichert. Like everybody in Washington was focused on the governor's race. And so there wasn't a lot of attention on the local races and the legislative races, which was unfortunate. So all of that to say, if you have children, especially, I say you need to really consider getting out of Washington State, or, make sure that you have all of your systems and processes in place to be able to protect your family. I know, I'm not sure if Leslie's in the chat talking about this, but, Leslie is a homesteader in Washington, which you would think, well, that's safe, but you're in Washington. And I just think, with the laws in Washington and having kids, you should get those kids out. I got a text message last Saturday morning from a friend in Washington, and she was trying to help a family in Jefferson County. They had the child, they have a baby that has sort of like a bone issue and broke a leg. And they're a Christian homeschooling family. Well, CPS took, I don't know how many kids they have, but took all of the children, including the baby. And so they were trying to figure out, how do we get our kids back? What do we do? Do you have can you recommend a lawyer? And I have another friend, and they're actually going to do a video with me. My friend Bryce moved his family out of Washington a couple years ago to Texas because CPS tried to take their baby as well after they had an issue that they went to Children's Hospital with. And I do believe that they target conservative families. Absolutely, without a doubt, 100%. And what I've seen of the Washington laws from, just in the last few years, how they have escalated from what they were in 2021 when our incident happened, which is the same time Bryce's family had their incident. They have like exponentially gotten worse, the laws for families. And so I say, if you can get your kids out, get your kids out. There are states that will not infringe upon your rights, that will allow you to make all the decisions for your kids. I think the Florida Parental Rights Office is a great example of what other states are doing to protect families and to give parents their rightful place to raise their children. So that's my advice. People have been asking me if I would do a video on how, what it looked like for us to move. And so I'm working on that. I had hoped to have it done this week, but I didn't even get it started. So hopefully maybe this weekend I will work on that. So if you have any specific questions you want to know about moving, I would be happy to include that in my video. But I'll do a video on kind of from our moment of, I think we should leave, to, kind of what that looked like and our whole process. And hopefully that will help some of you that are looking to get out. And one of the things that I really want to impress upon you, if you are looking at leaving Washington or any other blue state for the freedom of a red state, I beg of you to get involved when you go to a red state. It's critical that we do everything we can to keep our state red and engage at, whatever level you like. When we first got here to Sarasota, 3 weeks later, I was at a school board meeting making a public comment on mental health that they were putting in the budget for the Sarasota County schools. And I don't have kids in the schools here, but I'm a taxpayer. And I know that garbage is bad and I don't want to pay taxes. I don't want the kids here to have to deal with that. So whether it's school board or city council or whatever it is, please plan to plug in and be in the fight, because what I can assure you is the left is already engaged in the fight wherever you go. Even in these conservative places, they're highly organized at a local level. So that's my message to you. That's what's up, Evelyn. Okay, let's talk about Washington's permit to purchase. And if you hadn't already decided to leave Washington, maybe you will after this. All right. So House Bill 1163, the permit to purchase a firearm bill, passed in Washington. It is now awaiting Bob Ferguson's signature. There's a clause in the bill that says if this bill is not funded by June of 2025, the bill is null and void. The bill is set to take effect on, I think, May 1st, 2027. So 2 years out. A lot of people have said, well, what do you think the odds are that they won't fund it? I don't think those odds are very good. And here's why. They wouldn't have passed the bill if they didn't intend to fund it. And if you've been, I kind of did some digging around because I wanted to see how long Bob Ferguson had been, had been advocating for the assault weapons ban that was passed in House Bill 1240 was 2023, I think. So the latest I found, I didn't go back any further than 2016. But you can go to the AG website for 2016, 2017, every year from 2016 until 2020, till they actually passed the bill. That was his mission: the assault weapons ban, the magazine ban. Bob Ferguson is a big gun control guy. And to think that, there's these people on the Republican side in Washington that are like, he's so moderate. He's such a moderate governor. There is nothing moderate about Bob Ferguson. He might talk moderate, which is what people who are deceptive and strategic will do, but he will not act moderate. And if people think that he's going to veto House Bill 1163, I'm sorry, you have not been paying attention to Bob Ferguson for the last, I know he was AG for 12 years and then he was King County something or other before that. So if you haven't been paying attention, then that's the only reason that you think he's moderate. But he will absolutely sign this bill. It goes right along with all of his other gun priorities that he had as Attorney General. So I don't see at all that he would veto this. What I did though is I looked up the budget that passed. I want to say it's 5176 or 5167. Let's see if I can. I don't think I can make that bigger. Okay, hopefully you guys can see this. I just took screenshots, and these are not. These are from 4 different pages. So at the top, you have $545,000 of the legal services revolving account state appropriation is provided solely for the implementation of and gross second substitute House Bill 1163 firearms purchase. And then you've got $242,000 of the general fund for the implementation of 1163. And then down here in this new section for the Washington State Patrol State Firearms Background Check account, $8,728,000. And I've got, so what I did was I pulled up the budget bill, which is almost 1,400 pages, and I did a search for 1163. And so that's where I got all of these numbers. So you can add up all these numbers, and that's what they're hoping to, allocate. That's what they want to allocate to, just enact this 1163. I don't see that this would be an area that Bob would veto. I wish I had better news for you guys, but I don't see it. If he wasn't such a gun control guy before and really pushing the assault weapons ban and the mag ban and all the other anti-gun crap that the poor citizens of Washington State have to live under now, then maybe I would see that. But I think given all of this, I think we're going to see him pass 1163, and he's going to pass the budget without vetoing these sections of the budget. So I'm sorry. I think, you hear all this, I'm not going to comply. I'm not going to comply. Well, most people in Washington are complying with all of the unconstitutional gun control laws that are in place now. You can't, without going out of state, you can't buy more than a 10-round magazine. And I know some people, go to Idaho or wherever they go to get their magazines, and that's fine. But if you're talking about just the average citizen, I was a single mom for 10 years. I can guarantee you, if I just had decided when I was a single mom and all these laws were in place that I wanted to own a firearm, I would not have been able to jump through all of the hoops that are now required to purchase a firearm. I would certainly not have been able to go to Idaho to get, high capacity magazines. They're really, the kind of the big 2A people, will go and they'll get what they want. They'll get what they need. They'll work around it. But really, these bills impact people that don't even own firearms yet, people that want to be able to protect themselves, their families, their homes. Those are the people that are going to be impacted the most. And of course, it's just, even if you're like, yeah, I got a bunch of guns and I got a bunch of magazines, and so I'm okay. It's still like, this is communism. This is, it's so anti-American. You should be able to walk into a gun store and, have the same kind of weaponry that you can get in Idaho. If you are legally allowed to, carry a firearm, there shouldn't be an issue there. So it's really just an insult. Voter fraud 2020, Kolb for governor. So yeah, that's the bad news, I guess, about House Bill 1163 is that I do not see that it's not going to get signed into law. Governor Ferguson has been signing bills almost every day. I've been keeping an eye on that because I'm curious when he's going to sign that one. I'm also curious about when he'll sign House Bill 1296. 1296 has an emergency clause, and that one is the one that they, I don't like, guts the Parents' Bill of Rights. It basically, excuse me, it basically repeals the Parents' Bill of Rights and reverts things back to the way they were before Initiative 2081 passed. And it adds, they actually put a bunch of they put two other bills into 1296. They put Senate Bill 5123, which added a bunch of new classes of protected students that couldn't be discriminated against, sexual identity, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender orientation, homelessness, immigration status, neurodivergent. And in fact, our team was talking about this the other day because I think it was Jim Walsh proposed an amendment on the House floor that would not allow for students who identified as non-human things to be part of this protected classes, and they voted that down. So basically furries are protected under this as well. And then they also put in Senate Bill 5179, which creates a school board snitch line to the OSPI. So any school board that's not following Washington state laws, people can call into the snitch line and they'll get the big hand of Chris Reichdahl over them. And so we're talking about school districts like Kennewick, which I was talking about at the beginning of the live stream. So House Bill 1296 is a very bad bill. And like I said, it has an emergency clause, so it will take effect immediately. So if you have children in Washington public schools, and let's say this bill gets signed on Monday, goes into effect to your schools at the same time. And you can rest assured that the OSPI has everything all ready to roll out to implement this into the public schools. So what can you do if you have kids in public schools? Well, you should do everything in your power to get them out of the public schools. Homeschool is best. And I know a lot of people are like, but I can't homeschool. I have to work, or I have this or that. I get it. I totally do. I was single mom of 4, and I don't know how I would have done it. I had my kids been in school when all these laws are passing, I would have found a way. And we are having a very special live stream on Tuesday, May 6th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, where we are bringing in some of the top names in the homeschool movement, including Jonathan and Adriana Prescott of Homeschool Life. They're also the authors of Kids Don't Need School. We'll have Robert Bortons from Classical Conversations. We will have the 2 Lindsays from Homeschool Supply Company, and we will have Kevin Bowden from HSLDA. They're each going to be talking about different aspects of homeschooling specifically to empower parents who are trying to figure out, how can I get my kids out of the public school system across the country, because this is a problem in public schools across the country. How can you get your kids out of the public schools and make homeschool work for your family? Because it's not something where you have to sit your kid down at the kitchen table from 9 to 2 p.m. every day doing lesson plans. So you're going to get a lot of ideas. I encourage you to join us for that. If you're not able to make it live, you can watch it on replay. It's on our YouTube channel. If you look under the live videos, that's where you can find it. And you can go there and set a reminder or sign up for it to remind you when we go live on Tuesday evening. So I hope that you will join us for that. Or if that doesn't really apply to you, you don't really have kids in the school at school age anymore, share the information with someone who does and let them know that we're doing this. Hopefully it will be a huge help and encouragement to parents who are feeling stuck in the public schools. I'm just going to look here into the comments, see if you guys have any questions before we sign off for the weekend. I might do this at noon again next week because this time worked out really good for me, and I have something else going on next Thursday. So Put that on your calendar. Noon on Friday for our Washington friends, 3 p.m. on the East Coast. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I hope that we'll see you again next week. If you're not already, please do subscribe to our channel. That way you'll get notified when we post new content. And be sure to subscribe to our Substack, which is substack.conservativeladiesofamerica.com. Have a great weekend. See y'all next week.